Welcome to How to Succeed in Business During a Pandemic. I'm Wendy Lally, your host, and our program is it's a very simple premise. It's a 15-minute interview with an interesting entrepreneur or professional who is going to tell us how they are surviving and thriving during COVID-19. I know many of you out there are faced many challenges during this time. And it was my thought that perhaps if you heard from other professionals what they're doing and how they're kind of making it through, it might help you. In my own business, I'm a copywriter and marketing strategist. So this is kind of a natural fit for me because I ask my clients how they want to reach their clients, and my job is to make that connection for them. So helping people hear from other people is kind of a natural place for me to be. Today, we're going to hear from a very special guest, Jelinek, who is the founder and an owner of a very special business called Jelinek Solutions. Jelinek Solutions is a website design company, and they do some beautiful, beautiful work. But in addition, CJ also runs a very special networking group called Business by Referral. And I know it's special because I've attended many of their meetings. But today we're going to talk about another networking organization CJ, did you start Northside Networking?
I did found it, yes.
Great. You're so innovative. It's wonderful. Northside Networking is really a series of events. And I was very interested in the difference between the events that CJ runs for Northside Networking and the Business by Referral group that meets once a week. So I'm going to ask him to speak to that and also about the upcoming event that they're having. It's November, I want to make sure I get this date right, CJ, November 18th. So you'll know a little bit about that, and perhaps you'd like to join that. In any case, welcome, CJ, and thank you for joining me today. And tell us about Northside Networking.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me back on the show again, Wendy. I appreciate the opportunity. Well, last time we briefly talked about, as you mentioned, business by referral, but Northside Networking is a totally different way of doing things. Northside Networking really fundamentally is a series, as you mentioned, of events, networking events, structured networking events that are primarily focused on Chicago's far north side. Reason being, because frankly, back in the day, I was sick of always having to go downtown, to the Loop or Lincoln Park or River North. I was always having to go down there to pick up some quality structured events. And one day I just said, well, hey, why not just have it up here? Why not have some good quality events up here? And so I myself and another co-founder, Marty Becklenberg, we approached Rogers Park Business Alliance many years ago, about 7 years ago. And we said, look, we know that you've got networking events, you've got some sort of social events, but we've been to some really phenomenal events downtown. We've even put on some events ourselves that are structured, they're organized, and they do this, that, and the other. And we said, we'll make you a proposal. We will put on the event, we'll handle the entire event for you if you find a place to do it. You go to your community and you say, well, here's a venue, we can have lunch here. Great. And so we formed a partnership there. So it was born with the original organization being the Rogers Park Business Alliance, and then expanded to include 4 others, which include Westridge. These are all chambers: Westridge, Edgewater, Uptown, and then Roscoe Village. And so the idea is that 5 times a year, we have this event, this structured event in one of those different neighborhoods. So it rotates around Chicago's far north side. That's what Northside Networking is. It's an alliance of all these organizations, and we host these events in those different neighborhoods. And
That's terrific. It
yeah,
really is, because you sort of cross-pollinate within your own area, but you're still meeting people that you might not normally meet and interact with.
that's right.
Good
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Um, I'm looking at my notes here to make sure I'm asking you the right kind of questions. So I know that with BBR, the people in the group are from all different professions, and I'm assuming that's true about this networking event. They're also from different areas within the same kind of general area. Is there like a lot of insurance brokers and real estate, or is it a good mix of people that come to these events?
It's always a good mix. And I want to make the distinction between a group, a networking group, and a networking event. So a networking group, like Business by Referral, and there are, of course, many other leads groups in the city. A group is primarily membership based, right? You have members that keep coming back weekly, usually, maybe a couple of times a month. There might be member dues. You usually have one person per category. An event is not necessarily that. It might be a one-time thing. It might be repeating, but it's not usually restricted to just one person per category. There are many different ways that you can go about running it differently than a group. And so the way that we run it is by breaking everybody down into small groups. And so, of course, we want to see fresh faces at the events. Groups, of course, you want usually consistent members, but for the events, we want fresh faces. And what helps us to keep fresh faces is the fact that we rotate between the different neighborhoods. So when we're in, Edgewater one time, we'll generally see a lot of Edgewater, community members versus when we're up in Rogers Park and so on. So that keeps it fresh. But of course, we do have a lot of people. I would estimate up to approximately half of attendees can be repeat visitors from previous events. And the number of attendees for the in-person events, I always cap it at 80 people, just because any more than that is not manageable, and,
Right.
and you tend to not meet as many people as you want. So I cap it at 80. So that's usually about the amount that end up showing up. And so, you can meet almost all of those people during the course of, this event.
And how has COVID changed the way you run this? Because you can't meet in person anymore.
Yeah, well, in April, we were supposed to have an in-person event, but I had to end up canceling that one because at the time I was not ready to take it virtual yet. But for our July event, I was. I have been putting on, the weekly BBR group virtually. By that time, I had been doing that especially. And so I felt that I was prepared to be able to put on a virtual event for Northside Networking. And my main goal was to try to make it feel as familiar as possible to the real in-person event. And so I mimicked, certain things that I do in person, but virtually. For example, in person, we have 8 tables of up to 10 people per table. And each table has a table facilitator to help, guide people at that one particular table. Well, Zoom, of course, has breakout rooms.
Yeah.
And so I utilize the breakout rooms by, making sure that each room has a facilitator and then randomize everybody else in, amongst the tables. And so they're in their breakout room for 10, 12 minutes, and then I bring them back, I reshuffle them, put them back in a different room. So I mimic the tables and the facilitators at the tables. I try to mimic that as best as possible. In the in-person events, we also have raffles. And so I usually do a drawing, pull the business card out of the fishbowl.
Right.
Well, I do the same thing online. So there's a wheel of names that I utilize where everybody's name is in there, and I spin the wheel, and this is of course all virtual that they're looking at on the screen, and draw all those names. So I try to make it as familiar as possible to the in-person events, and it's been a success.
Tell me something. Those events, everybody gets a handful of business cards you can take home and then set up offline meetings with whoever it is you want to meet. And usually when I've been in Zoom meetings, you do use the chat to post that information about yourself. Do people get a copy of those chats, or yeah?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. For now, the virtual events are entirely free, and it takes an hour. It's 11 a.m. to noon. And as you mentioned, the next one is November 18th, which is a Wednesday. So, I do encourage people to attend. Right now, at the time of this taping, we're about half full, and I just opened it up this week for registration. So we do tend to sell out, and I cap the online event at 100, since Zoom allows you up to 100 people. So
Right.
I do cap it at 100. So there are more, of course, people, but it still definitely sells out.
Well, at the end of our talk, we're going to post information so you folks can take that down. And this is supposed to be running November 2nd. We'll be on the air. So hopefully there'll be some space for you to sign up. And if you can't come to this one in November, I'm sure that CJ will continue doing these. The thing about the value of events like this is our ability to interact with each other in person is basically gone for a while. So these are very valuable resources for businesses that want to connect with other people in their industry, vendors, as well as customers. And I hope you'll take advantage of a resource like CJ's, because it is very, very useful. CJ, is there anything you want to add about this event? Any special news you think people should know?
Yeah, first and foremost, you can visit northsidenetworkinggroup.com for information and to register for free. But I also want to emphasize that networking is like a muscle. You gotta exercise it. When times are good, when times are bad, it doesn't matter. You always need to be out there and continuously networking, and especially now. Times are hard, so now especially you've got to get out there. And this is one of the ways that you can do that, by getting out there, virtually meeting people and expanding your network and hopefully generating more business.
Not only that, I think the organization that you just told us about is incredible, because having like a PDF that you can keep on your desktop and store that, especially if you're in the Northside area. But you know what? Even if you're not in the Northside area, because guess what? Southside people can do business with Northside people today. Most of our businesses are operating virtually to begin with. So having those resources, being able to meet those people, even if it's just through your computer, it's a tremendous gift. And thank you for giving it to so many of us. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome. Well, I think we're coming to the end of this little episode. The time goes by so quickly. There's so much more we could talk about, but unfortunately, time does not allow that. So I just wanted to say thank you, CJ, for joining us again. And also thank you to all of you who have tuned in. I hope you'll come back again next week when we'll be interviewing another professional or entrepreneur who will give you some tips on how to succeed in business during a pandemic. This is Wendy Lally. I just want to tell you, please stay in and stay well. And thank you again for stopping by.
Thanks, Wendy.
You're welcome.